All right, we got less than a minute to go, and I'm just going through the process of making it live.
Okay.
We are now live. And again, Kyle Trevis will not be attending, or if he does, it'll be much later.
Over there. Wow. Thank you.
I show 3 o'clock.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Do we want to do a pledge of allegiance?
Sure.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, a roll call.
Mr. Noonan,
Here.
Mr. Behrens,
Present.
Ms. Lautner,
Present.
Mr. Yeomans,
Here.
Mr. Walter.
Can you hear me now? I
Yep.
muted. Okay, I muted it.
Okay. Mr. Frericks,
Here.
Mr. Christensen,
Present.
Mr. Wessel,
Here.
Mr. Popa,
Here.
Mr. Trevis is absent, excused. 9-1.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
The number for calling in to public comment is 231-256-8103.
Do we need to wait a few minutes for that, Laurel?
Give it about 15 seconds and then keep going unless someone calls in, and then we can interrupt.
Okay. Okay, I don't hear anything. We'll move on to any agenda additions or deletions. We've got a very full agenda. Is there anything that needs to be changed?
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there support?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We've got an agenda. Okay, first item on the agenda is the monkey flower presentation and the annual support request. Laurel, you want to go ahead?
All right. So hopefully you all had a little bit of time to review the materials that I prepared. The most noticeable difference this year is that due to the mild winter, the monkey flower is really, really strong and thriving right now. But that doesn't mean we can just leave it to its own. We still need to care for it. And so I am proposing that we proceed as we have in the past with the team effort of the support from the county, support from local neighbors. My company gives a support as well. And the Glen Lake Association has also joined in on this team effort. So the proposal would be to continue removing the competitive plants that tend to grow, that do grow faster and can overwhelm the monkey flower. And removing all the debris that comes along with that. Visitors are often in the overlook. People really do appreciate and notice this project. And it seems like already we're having more people using the park than in the past. So it's always satisfying to have them notice what's going on and answer questions. They're up on the platform and we're down there working. So does anybody have questions about the monkey flower in particular? Are there new people that are unfamiliar with our monkey flower? It's an endangered species, very special to our area. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about the plant in particular or the project at large.
Matt, Casey? Thank you. I guess my question would be, I was surprised at the number of colonies there are. So do you work with all of those colonies or some of those colonies?
Yes. Well, when you say the number of colonies, are you referring to the expanse at Old Settlers?
No, I can't go to it or I'll go off screen, but isn't there several now? Like, I thought way back there was only like two colonies of them we knew of, but it sounded like there was a lot more now.
Okay. Yeah, there are colonies scattered throughout the whole Northwest Michigan, Straits of Mackinac region. I work with the colonies around Glen Lake. So they're adjacent to the lands at Old Settler Park. There are privately held lands, and people have hired me to take care of their monkey flower. This is kind of this is a similar project to that. I'm not taking care of monkey flower at any sites beyond the Glen Lake sites.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Laurel?
I pulled up last year's draft motion for when you get ready to
I'll
add a
make
motion
the
to.
I'll make the motion. Laurel's going to proper date.
So a motion to engage the services.
Hold on a
Of
second.
Laurel.
Dave has a question.
Laurel, I'm simply interested in the comment that you said already you're noticing more use of Old Settlers Park. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Like today, in fact, there's a group that is meeting there. There's lots of cars, but everybody is in lawn chairs, well spaced out on the turf areas. So a popular meeting spot, but with proper precautions in place.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Laurel, go ahead and read the motion.
A motion to engage the services of Laurel Voran for another year of monkey flower maintenance and protection for 2020 in an amount not to exceed $960.
There's support for that motion?
So
Support.
Melinda's making the motion
Correct.
Todd,
and
support.
who's Todd? Okay.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Laurel.
You're welcome. Thank you all for your support. And if you ever stop by in person while I'm there working, I'm glad to show you in detail what we do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. We have the Veronica Valley Fish Report. Heather?
Hey guys, so this is the 10th year that I have come to the board and requested a collaborative fish purchase for Veronica Valley. I will certainly say it is the most interesting year of fish purchase requests we've had so far. And Lonnie's on too, and so Lonnie, if I miss anything or you need to pipe in, feel free to do so. So first of all, I apologize. I am the one that held up Laurel getting the packets to you guys because Lonnie and Alan and Pete and I spent much of the day yesterday going back and forth and trying to make this work. We felt very strongly that we could have the event this year. I mean, our goal was to have the event this year. We were very optimistic that we could push it to August. And that was kind of our game plan for a while. And slowly but surely, factors kind of started coming in. You know, this whole event is donation based, and we've got a lot of small businesses that would never say no to us if we asked them for money. That's just how Leelanau County is. And so we felt like we really didn't want to tax those folks any further in this kind of time of economic instability. I had a long conversation with our fish provider yesterday, and he was very willing to split our fish stocking. So our initial idea was to do a fish stocking on you guys' behalf now, and then wait and do another purchase on behalf of the Kids Fish Day Committee in August, immediately before the event. But because the weather has been cold and dreary and very, very wet, as our fish provider is getting into his ponds of fish to sort them and sell them to other buyers, he's finding that when he stresses these fish, they're getting diseases, which is a very common thing. When you've got poor weather conditions and you stress fish, they get what's called columnaris, and it's a pretty bad deal. So he had some uncertainty with being able to hold healthy fish for us until August. So the four of us kind of went back and forth yesterday and realized that despite our best efforts, the event is not going to happen for 2020. That being said, we are still interested in stocking the pond. We still see a lot of value in providing an outdoor recreation opportunity for folks in Leelanau County right now. Every time that I've been past the park in the past month, there have been people there flying kites, playing tag, lots of fishing. So people are taking advantage of it right now even, which is great. The Kids Fish Day Committee, as you kind of read through this document, it's the same document that I've handed you guys for the past 10 years. Most of the text is the same, minus the first paragraph in italics that kind of explains the situation this year. So the Kids Fish Day Committee, we do have some money in our coffers to continue to show our commitment to the event and to the pond and to the park. And the resource that it provides for Leelanau County. We're willing to put forth some money this year, even though we're not having the event, to purchase fish. In the document here, you'll see I've got an initial kind of blush of $500. That will probably be the minimum that we're able to spend. And I don't know, we haven't really talked about this too much with Lonnie and Alan kind of taking the helm from Pete. Not everybody's got kind of the budget and things dialed in. So there may be some room to purchase some additional fish. We'll need to make that decision in the next couple of days. But we're willing to put forth some money for fish. Cost did not really go up very much this year. So I think 2 cents is all. So so fish the price is pretty much the same. There is a little, we would not be splitting shipping this year. So that did increase the price a little bit, but it's not, I think it's right around, I'll have to jump to my other screen here, $320.50 over last year's ask. And if we can free up some money, if we do take a look at what the Kids Fish Day Committee has, we may still be able to split that shipping and get that cost down. So I guess the ask this year would not, to not exceed that 45.53 amount. There is the potential that it would be less, but we wouldn't exceed that. So, I guess with that, does anyone have any questions? Or Lonnie, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you said it pretty much, although I think that $500 is what we had planned on.
Okay.
That's a quarter of our budget that we have for our
Okay.
rainy day fund.
Okay.
And, so I think $500 is what we would like to, to give toward that purchase.
Okay.
And that $500 is in addition to the 4553 or whatever it is on the county's part?
Yes, so that would go toward an additional 250 fish on top of the 2,000 that we would be requesting from you guys.
I have a question, Casey. Hey, Heather,
Yeah.
if we go ahead and stock this pond, is there enough aeration in that pond that they would last the winter? Because obviously the majority aren't going to get caught this summer.
Nope, and that's a great point. So definitely, we have holdover from year to year. The pond is big enough and deep enough. The water coming into the pond is cold enough. We have surveyed that pond in years past and documented multiple year classes. So we know that fish are making it through the winter. I think the last time we netted it was the spring and fall of 2018. We try to do it roughly every 5 years or so, just to make sure we've got a decent predator prey balance in there with the bluegill, and there's a few perch in there, there's a few suckers in there, there's some bullhead, there's some really nice largemouth. So we want to make sure everybody's in balance. So we do get holdover from year to year. So the nice thing with this investment is it's not kind of a flash in the pan investment, right? I mean, people are going to take advantage of it this year, of course, but it really does last throughout the entire season, and it carries into next year as well.
Okay, thank you.
John, you're on mute.
Go ahead, John. John, you're on mute yet.
Okay, I'm unmuted. No, I don't have a question.
No, John Pope.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor of this. I had talked it over with Lonnie during this whole past month. And Pete, we want to make sure that that pond gets stocked. I think it's going to be great that once the word gets out, people are going to fish there all summer long. We take a large percentage out during fish day, which is really a screaming success, but it would be nice for people to use that. This is kind of like a little trial. They're going to be there fishing all summer. And we have to believe that fish hatchery person and or Heather that we've got to do this, because if we wait any longer for this summer weather, whatever this coronavirus that she's talking about is getting into the fish, it's just, we don't want to get that is it a virus? I don't know, but
Yeah, it is. Yep.
You want to make a motion, John?
so moved.
Can I repeat last year's motion?
Go ahead, Laurel.
Okay. Motion to support the program and approve the purchase of fish for the Veronica Valley Park ponds from Lagos Fish Farm Incorporated in the amount of, so the total amount would be what?
Not to exceed 4553.
Well, that's the total amount,
Right, Heather?
Yes.
but we have more to this. With the Leelanau Lake Association contributing 500
Correct.
and Leelanau County paying 4,053?
553.
The amount that Lake Leelanau Lake Association is contributing is to buy more bluegills, not to cover part of the bill.
Okay, so should we make this 5,053 for the total purchase?
In the past, I don't know how this is going to come out, but in the past, haven't we, someone's paid the bill up front or really soon, and then some years we just get a bill from the Lake Association.
Yes. And so I have an invoice for you guys in the amount of $4,553. what we've done in the past is that you guys have issued a check for the share that for the part that you guys are covering, and I give that to Dan first as a deposit. Then when the fish arrive, we use the check from the Kids Fish Day Committee to pay the balance. We don't have, without having the event, we don't have a fixed day. So I think with all those things considered, there's some freedom with when we get him a check and when we take delivery of the fish. So that's what we've done in the past. We could do that again, or we could just give him both checks when he shows up with a fish.
Heather, what is the schedule that you're aware of now for the planning?
At this point in time, they are stocking bluegill out actively. I think he would like to get them to us sooner rather than later.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
Information will come out lower in the agenda. The Savin Lake Services is planning their treatment on or about June 3rd.
Okay, so we could, let's see, 3rd. I'd want to give it at least a week, but we could essentially just schedule with Dan to stock the following week, to give time for that treatment to break down, and we could simply present him with both checks. I think at that point in time, he'd be fine with that.
I think
That works for the Lake Association.
I think Heather, maybe we ought to push 2 weeks instead of 1 week, knowing how doing an application with regard to weather and whatnot and equipment and a lot of factors. If that date became a little bit later, if we had a little more wiggle room in the delivery, we wouldn't have to reschedule delivery.
Well, if the treatment's the 3rd, a week is the 10th, we could probably schedule him for the week of the 15th, and I think that would be fine.
That
But
sounds good.
that's only 3 weeks out, so.
So,
And of course,
I have a question, I guess.
Of course, the schedule for the June 3rd treatment is tentative on water temperature, and like they won't do it in a heavy rain like the last couple days, of course.
Right.
So it's on or about June 3rd.
Yep.
Can I clean up this motion then?
Yes.
I think I will probably be able to accept that bill from Heather and work it through the system. I think would be a good idea. I am pretty comfortable. We've got a great history with this guy. And then we don't hand him the check until the fish are delivered, and I think that works really well. I'm comfortable with that.
And I'll make sure, even though the event's not going on and all those sorts of things, I will make sure that I'm at the pond for delivery day, and we'll have a couple of folks that'll help me and the driver unload the truck. So we'll still assume responsibility, or I'll still assume responsibility for making sure that those fish go in the pond in the appropriate way, that we have them divvied up and in a good manner.
Casey?
Go ahead.
Casey, thank you. Okay, I part of the county's going to $3, and then
Melinda, you're cutting out.
everybody is, I'm afraid. The first part, the county's part.
So Melinda, are you making the motion?
No, the motion was made. Asked to split the question.
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
I am,
I'm going to put the 2 callers on mute to see if that takes care of it. Okay, let's try this again.
all right. Yes, I'm supporting the motion made, but you asked for it to be split.
Well, that's what happened last year, so I'm wondering if I clean it up this way. Motion to support the program and approve the purchase of fish in the amount of $4,553 with the Lake Leelanau Lake Association contributing, is it an additional $500?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
how it should be?
Yes.
Because the county is paying $4,553 for sure.
Correct.
Heather?
She's muted.
Sorry, I missed that. I'm using my hotspot. My phone actually just rang, so.
Oh, so the county's gonna fork over $4,553 and the Lake Leelanau Lake Association will contribute an additional 500?
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll leave it at that. So who made the motion?
John Popa.
John Popa, okay. And who seconded?
Todd Yeomans.
Todd. Okay.
All right, may I speak to it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think we should have some discussion on why we're going to do this if we're not going to have the kids' fish day. So I just want to make sure that we have in the minutes that we have a lot of discussion about this. My first reaction was not to stock the fish pond here if we're not going to have the kids' fishing event. But the more I got to thinking about it, I thought our children have lost so much already this year. So if we do this year, maybe it's just a little bit something we can give back and allow them to have something to do this summer. So I'm hoping that maybe after they're stocked, we could even put an ad in the paper telling people we canceled the event, but we would still like to see children fish that pond and put the emphasis on we want to see the children enjoy the fish in that pond, but to encourage families to go out. So I am going to support this motion. Thank you, Casey.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Steve.
I have a as well.
Dave and I talked a little bit, and we kind of back and forth over the last couple of days and trying to figure out, like Melinda said, the thought and feeling was, gosh, we should put something in the paper. But the more we thought about it, and I've been thinking a little bit, and I may be wrong, but I think the word's going to get out really nicely in the Leelanau County. I think if we put something in the paper, we're going to open the door for a lot of groups and buses and whatnot to come, and we could end up with something that approximated a mini fish day every weekend for 6 or 7 weeks. And I that's probably being pretty pessimistic, but I kind of think that maybe the word will get out without necessarily advertising a whole lot, but I don't know. It's just a thought.
I kind of have to agree with you, Steve, and we don't need to worry about the ad in the paper until the fish are actually in the pond. So I mean, I think it'd probably be for next month's agenda anyways, but yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dave.
first of all, I support the motion strongly, as we've already heard. I think this is a really valid expenditure of county tax dollars. I mean, we're talking about dollars out of our budget, but it's all tax dollars from our residents. Under these circumstances, as John expressed, the whole virus shutdown, et cetera, this is a fantastic offering to our county citizens of and support of a really fine recreation that is safe family fishing. My wife and I have hiked Veronica 5 times since the the virus, the quarantine has started. It's been fishing people there every single time. Once there was only one car, minimum, other times it was 3 cars, once there were 6 cars besides ours. So heavily used, really, and a lot of fishing going on. I think it's a very valid, legitimate expenditure of county dollars. So I support the resolution. It's a
Any
motion.
other discussion?
Well, we just want to, this is Lonnie calling, or this is Lonnie talking. The Fish Committee, the Lake Leelanau Lake Association and the Fish Committee want to thank you guys for doing what you did. We too think it's a valuable asset to the county, and we were hoping that this outcome was going to be what it is. So we thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Can I get a count on that? Was it unanimous?
Yes, unanimous.
Okay.
So we can put some things out on Facebook. That's what I'll do, because I want to make sure that we hit as many people as we can to know it was stocked without an event.
And we can add a news update to the front of the county website.
That's great.
That sounds good.
Excellent.
And if
idea,
somebody-
Melissa.
Good.
Thank you guys so much. I will get the wheels in motion with the fish, and I will keep you guys posted as to when we get a delivery date scheduled.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment on advertising for the event. And I think it's fine to be in the newspaper, Facebook, whatever. But I think we should have some signage up there at the park that supports social distancing about it, regardless of how you advertise it. I think it's good to let everybody know about it, but you still have to have it set up so that it's not abused and too many people are there at any one time. That's all.
Agreed. Okay, moving on with the agenda. The DNR grant status, approval of resolution and support of recreational passport grant.
Did everybody have a chance to review the draft resolution?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had to make quite a few changes because it hadn't been really modified for us.
That's okay. Yeah, that was fine.
I appreciate
your
it. Well, thank you.
Your recommendation will go on the June agenda for the county board.
Thank you, Laurel.
You're
So moved.
welcome.
Is there a
I'll
motion?
second the motion to support that resolution.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes with the unanimous vote. Okay, the next item would be approval of minutes. We have the regular session minutes from February 19th.
John,
John, you moved.
Is that a motion, John?
I can't hear him.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve those minutes of, there's 2 sets. Let's see.
February 9th.
First one was February 19th.
And the second one is February 27th.
You want them done separately?
Do them together.
Together.
Well, I read them all and I'm okay with it, and I'm willing to make a motion to approve them both.
Is there support?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with the unanimous decision.
Laurel, those were lengthy meeting minutes and you did a good job on them.
Well, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the financial reports. Is there any questions?
Move to accept.
Is there support?
I had a question.
Todd supported with Ty's question.
I just want to make sure that we have a plan in place to spend our capital outlay money this year. And if we've already got that, remind me of it.
We have the 28,000 and some dollars for the Grub Shack remodel. And at this point, that's it that I know of.
There'll be some snow grooming equipment as well.
Okay.
There's also quite a bit of work that needs to be done at Miles. We need to grind the stumps in that perimeter trail, and we need to clean up quite a bit of brush that's still there, and that's going to be kind of pricey.
I think that's going to fall under maintenance.
And touching on that real quick, I got a email. I don't know if some of you saw it from a lady that lives next door, Andrea Matrakos.
Couple doors down, but yeah.
Yeah. She's interested in organizing some volunteers to help clean up those trails. Is that something you want to do, Scott? Or
I don't think that's possible. I think it's got to be all power equipment.
Okay, that's fine.
The forestry mulcher, chipper, stuff like that.
Okay.
It's a lot of big stuff. So.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to get your opinion. Well, I'll touch base with her and let her know.
Has anybody contacted her?
I sent her an email back just kind of explaining some of the questions that she asked. And I told her that I would bring it up at our next meeting and get back with her.
It does bring up a question we all have to think about, not today, not now. This is a bit to the side of the agenda, but volunteer use in our parks. Because, well, Lonnie Rademacher knows of some interest in doing cross-country ski grooming by volunteers. But there's equipment use, there are issues we haven't sorted out. So that's something we've got to look at in the future, how we can utilize groups of volunteers, if at all.
Of course. We have a motion on the table to approve the financials. Are there any other questions? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with a unanimous decision. Okay, moving on. We've got the committee reports. Miles Kimmerly. Is there anything? Go ahead.
Scott, you were thinking about maybe getting some numbers together for that stump grinding for the perimeter trail.
We lost Scott somehow.
And he must have dropped off.
I know that that's on his mind, Steve, and I think that was one of his kind of his priorities right now.
Right. The yeah, I think well, we're pretty early in the year. I think next meeting, if we could flesh out what we could do there. I don't know what that a maintenance line item is, but I know that we need to stay on that to make that project complete.
Yes. And I have a feeling that we're going to have to either move some money or set aside some money out of the capital outlay to do that. Otherwise, it's going to more than max out our maintenance budget.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a bottom line budget. So I believe if there's money overall, we can go ahead and do some things.
Right.
But anyway.
One other thing that I had for Miles, I had another lady who lives just a few doors down from the park ask me about setting up a small Dropbox library. She emailed me a picture of it, but I lost it in my email somehow. But it's basically on a 4x4 post and a small box on top of that, maybe 2x2, not anything huge, but a small community library at the park there somewhere. And I told her I'd bring it up to the board at the next meeting. So I just wanted to.
So this is a neighborhood small library structure. You leave a book, take any book you want, leave as many books as you want, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
I didn't know there's an entire national organization of those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been converted to food at this moment.
Sure.
As opposed to books.
I asked her about, building the structure and maintaining it and, all that stuff. And she said that she would take care of all that.
Should that go before the committee?
Well, it could, but I would just assume kind of get it going. I mean, I know that it's in the committee, but in these times, it's going to be hard for us to all meet is the biggest thing.
Put it by the pavilion walkway.
Yes, somewhere in there. And I was going to have her talk to Scott or meet with Scott about a good place for it.
I don't have any problem with it.
Ty, go ahead.
I've seen those around the county. I think they're very nice. I think we ought to support it. And if it became a problem, it's easy to remove. And I think we ought to go forward quickly so that we have it in place for when school's out in this summer.
Okay.
That would be my emotion.
Do you have a cost?
No, there would be no cost to us. She just was looking.
So they'll donate the structure?
Correct.
Okay.
That was my understanding. If that changes, I'll bring it back to the board. But I asked her about those specific things, and she was going to work on getting somebody to build it and then maintaining the structure and all of that and taking care of it. Is there support for, or Ty or Steve, did you support his motion, or Todd?
I don't think anybody did.
Todd is right now. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with unanimous decision. Okay, I think is there anything else for Miles? Okay, moving on to settlers. The Meadow Garden status report, Laurel.
Yes, Barb, are you there? Barb Lund was going to take the lead on this. Is she available?
I am here.
Okay, go ahead, Barb.
All right. Laurel and I prepared this report to give you a status of what we're doing at the Meadow Garden, which is part of Old Settlers Park. And you should have a copy of it. If you don't, please let me know and we'll get you a copy. It's Old Settlers Meadow Garden Status Report to the Leelanau County Parks and Recreation Committee, May 2020. Do you all have a copy of that?
It's page 28 and 29 of the packet.
Yep, we have it.
All right. I'll just kind of skim down it because it's rather worthy. In 2020, we are actually beginning our second year in the garden, and it's basically the plans that we made during the winter are kaplooey because of the pandemic. So we are, right now, we are limiting the number of workers on the garden to no more than 3 at any given time for social distancing. We have a committee, including Laurel and myself, of 13 members. And right now we're doing the spring cleanup. It's just cutting down the old plants and doing whatever weeding needs to be done at this point. After that, the spring cleanup, we'll be adding hopefully new mulch. And we have, in the past, it's been donated by Deerlings, and so we're hopeful that that will happen again. And we have a small low rope fence along the path that we cut into the garden. We have the stakes, but the ropes didn't make it to the winter. So we're going to buy new rope and put those along the path at some point in the next month. Lori Lyman, this is the third year, I believe she has donated a team from Seeds. If you're familiar with Seeds, it's like all capital letters, and it's a nonprofit, and they use youth workers. And so we are going to have them on May 27th, weather permitting, and Laurel's going to be there on that day, and she's going to be supervising the edging of the garden. We have plant labels, and we will be putting those in at some point in the next 2 months. We have about 75 of them, and at this point, we're thinking of having 2 labels on each type of plant, the botanical name and the common name. Last year, we had a trunk with a combination lock behind the latrine, and that allowed us to get access hoses to water. That was our biggest project last year, was watering everything. And this year, we don't expect to do much watering except if there is an extreme dry spell. And that usually happens in mid to late July and maybe early August. So we would like to have that trunk again available. We have it here stored at my house. And then we'll keep, not only keep the hoses in there, but we're going to have, get some plant stakes and have those available for tall plants, keep them from falling over. And Laurel, do you want to talk about the poster?
Yeah, so we're in the process of making a poster that gives a brief description about the garden. The poster will go in the little kiosk that is right across from the bathrooms there at Old Settlers. So that's in process, and also we're planning to have a website where people can get even more in-depth information about the garden. So all that is being worked on now.
So that's our year planning. We'll have in the fall we'll have another. I thought it'll be a work bee this year, but another closure of the garden. However, it may be done in phases. But we're trying to work with the system as it is this year.
Right.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure working at the garden, and thank you for your faith in us, allowing us to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your hard work.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing you're doing there. It looks nice. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, next item would be the special event request for the Glen Lake Community Reformed Church for their concert. Earl, did you just want to discuss this, or?
Did their date move?
Not that I've seen.
Have they moved their date?
I haven't heard anything from them.
And I haven't had any correspondence at all.
Okay, so we wish to recommend to the Leelanau County Parks and Recreation Board to approve the park use with the suggested revision in the Old Settlers Park with the Glen Lake Community Reformed Church for proposed concert to be held July 18, 2020, pending council's review.
Is there support?
Support.
Laurel, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I really think they need to have some sort of social distancing plan.
Yeah, I don't disagree there at all. I was wondering how this is all going to work. I mean, I'm somewhat doubting that they're going to even hold the event.
Everything's dropping off like flies at this point.
Yes, exactly. I would be surprised if they still had it, but
If I recall the language of the draft contract or agreement, it does say you have to have an approved plan on file that had gone or been vetted by the emergency management and sheriff's office and a representative from the Parks Board. So if they still wanted to do it, they'd have to follow whatever recommendations emergency management has.
correct.
How large an event is this?
This would be their third year of doing it, and it's steadily grown. Several hundred people, 400 or 500 people.
Well, I would think we shouldn't approve something like this until they show us some recommendations on how they're going to hold it and have social distancing available. Seems like
That's part of the plan. The agreement that they sign, they have to have something from, they have to meet with the emergency management director and the sheriff and one member of the Parks Board to go over safety procedures.
That's my problem is that's a pretty small park for several hundred people.
You know, my take on it is if we have to make them make a plan out, that's just fine. We will ask them to do that. I think they will do that. But it's kind of been my observation that people will either follow the plan or they won't. And I think they're either going to self-protect or they won't. So I think ask them to do the plan. Some people are going to come in carloads and in as families, and they're going to cluster together anyway. And there would be no way for us to know if, these 15 people are staying at the same house all week anyway. I can know that. So I think those who choose to protect themselves, they will. I'm sure you'll probably still see people wearing masks, at Christmas time. I don't know. But I just think that's the best that we can do and allow them to hold their event. As I said, that's been my observation. If we don't like it, we can tell them not to have the event, but I would just say allow it to go forward.
I could get some advice from our risk management carrier, MMRMA, if you'd like.
I think he's going to sing, but it's okay.
So I would just like to hear from them and see how they're going to do this and conduct it, that's all. If they can show me that they have a sane way to have this event without exposing a lot of people, especially people that are downstate moving up here maybe, I would support it. Otherwise, I would be against it.
I agree with Dan.
John Popa.
I agree with Melinda. We can't be the policeman to these things. They've got it in their submittal of what they're going to do. They're in charge of their actions. We can't be policing the whole county, even though if we're on Parks and Rec. They're going to submit their plan. They're going to do the care that they can, and getting lawyer review or legal review or other health reviews, they're still going to go out and do that. So just give them the authority as long as they're submitting a good plan. We don't need to add more government layers to something like that. We got too much of it now. It takes us a half hour just to get through a thing on purchasing fish. I mean, jeepers creepers.
I got a comment.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm comfortable with the way it's put forth. They're going to have to meet with the emergency manager and the sheriff, and the emergency manager is on top of all of the procedures that we are doing at the county level And I'm real comfortable with him being the interface with this potential event, and actually looking at the plan that will be presented. I have confidence in Matt and the sheriff and whoever from this commission is there. I think that'll cover the bases quite nicely.
Todd?
Hey, Casey, I'm not sure this thing, if they even have this, it's not going to be that big attended like it was in the last couple of years. But come next year, I think I brought it up before, they may need to rethink which park they use and use the upper deck of Miles Kimberly for all the parking and stuff, because it's been getting kind of bad down there at Old Settlers. It won't be this year, but last couple of years with all the people.
Yep.
Just my take. If they want to have it this year, and Melinda, I'm not wearing a mask at Christmas because I don't wear one now. So there you go. That's me.
Is there any other comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say, raise your hand. 2, 4, 6. All those opposed? Motion passes with a 7-1 vote.
Well, Steve isn't showing up. Steve,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steve, are you yay or nay?
Yay.
So 8-1.
Okay. That's all that's on the agenda for Old Settlers. I have just a couple of quick comments. Old Settlers picnic itself has been canceled for this year. The Old Settlers Committee made the decision, with most of the folks being of older age and everything, and all of the unknowns, that they decided to cancel. They haven't even been able to meet because most all of the board members are quite a bit older. So they made the decision to cancel the picnic for this year. And with that, my cousin is planning on he's going to do it this year, the Grub Shack remodel. I sent the signed contract to Laurel the other day. We're working on getting through some of the upfront money for the cost of materials, but he will have it done again this year. It's going to be delayed some because he was, shut down for a month or a month and a half, whatever it was. So it'll be early fall before he gets there, but still planning on, or he's going to do it. So, and I think that was it. Okay, Veronica Valley, invasive species eradication update.
Yeah, I've got two things, commissioners. You've already heard the one, that is the tentative date for the treatment of the pond is June 3rd. It turns out Savin Lake Services provides a large range of control possibilities, and they're getting into this whole TARP system. So they may be another source of knowledge as we go through this 1 year with their treatment on the ponds. The terrestrial invasive species, I haven't talked with Bill Watson for probably 3 weeks, right in the heart of the shutdown. We are still on the list, certainly in one of the priorities for having 2 crews for a couple of weeks, especially cleaning up the autumn olive glossy buckthorn. And I haven't talked to him in 3 weeks, so I don't know any more than that, but he assured me that for him to get paid, they need to get the work done, and that they were working on that. He has crews scheduled around projects really all over the state, but assured me that this was one of the priorities for early work. That's all I know at the moment.
Okay. Moving on, the placement of non-government items on county property. Did everybody get a chance to read that?
Mhm.
Laurel, do you want to expand on that anymore?
Well, actually, Ty or Melinda could, because they were in the meetings.
Okay,
And
go
I
ahead.
included synopsis of the minutes.
I will defer to Melinda because it was her suggestion and I was in the minority on that vote.
I'd be happy to. Yes, so what this stems from, and as you would probably see from the minutes, is the vote to not allow non-government donations on the county campus. Of course, and then that ended up being further expanded to the parks per our attorney's suggestion. Their concern was that if we made a policy such as we had suggested for donations, that we would not be able to control them, even the acceptance of them, because we would have the policy that said we accepted them. We wouldn't be able to say no. We could maybe just control the placement. So as you can see, they sort of have some suggestions of what we might do, but basically they would just be handled on a one at a time basis as they came forward. And we would make a decision whether or not we wanted to accept a donation. So as I suggested, the tree that someone wanted to place on the county campus, I thought might be better served at one of our parks, which is more used or more readily seen at our parks per all the traffic coming in and out of our parks. And maybe be better enjoyed than something on the county campus. So that's what it stems from. If that's thorough enough, we can just go kind of with this recommendation from the Buildings and Grounds Committee and the Board of Commissioners. If not, I'd be happy to try to answer more questions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
We've done quite a bit of work over the years with ideas about what could get donated to our parks. And got some ideas and some restrictions kind of with each park. Each one's a little bit, and and I don't know where this document leaves that work that we correct.
I don't think that work is lost personally, Steve. I think that it sets us up really well to know what we want to accept and the quality, not the quality so much as the design of what we want to accept. As you said, some parks, we maybe want some park benches donated. We can suggest that. But if it's going to be a tree, we know that it has to be of a certain size. It has to be a certain variety or species, and it has to be a bald tree, etc. And I think all of that is still very useful for us to use.
Melinda, can you tell me again? I don't quite understand why you don't have that sort of thing on the campus.
There was some varying reasons that we did not. One of the reasons given was, and actually this was one of my concerns. We have a very campus up there. So in other words, we don't have a lot of areas where we can just plunk trees. Even the hillside behind the courthouse is actually a drain field, a terrace drain field. So we can't plant trees there. Our Veterans Memorial Plaza already has everything that can be pretty much planted there, and it has a donation system already, etc. Up around the courthouse, there's lots of underground wires and lines, etc. So we already have tree placements. We said in the future, there might be room as one of those trees dies to replace it with a different tree. But we didn't want the campus to start looking like a Memorial Gardens. There's other places you can kind of travel and you know, they're great in some instances, but I didn't think the county campus was perhaps that's the right spot to do that. And I support these donations coming to our parks where we do want more trees and where we do need and want donations. And I really like the idea that we had come up with the one wall that would house all of the donation plaques all in one spot. So rather than to have the plaques around each donation, etc.
Okay, is that a motion, Melinda, or do you have a motion?
I don't know if motion is necessary. I would have to research that because we actually.
You guys supported it, so it's going over the top of our committee.
Yeah, this is pretty much.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can move on. Okay, rec plan review. Recreation plan review.
I just wanted to keep that on the agenda so that it's always in the back of your mind that you should be reviewing that since we just approved it.
Correct. That's a good reminder.
Does everybody have a copy of that?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good for us, especially with all the money and work that was just put into all that, we definitely take some time to go through that and get familiar with it.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Steve.
Our system is kind of predicated on our committee meetings, and obviously we're not doing that at this point. So, and I don't know why, you know, where that comment is leading per se. I'm just a little bit nervous that I don't want to lose our ability and focus. I thought that system was working pretty well, but I don't know. Just, I guess, think about it for next meeting. We're obviously going to have to probably be doing our committee work sort of through the large group at our Zoom meeting. I don't know. I don't know.
Can I make another suggestion? I was going to wait till the end of the meeting, but we've got an executive committee meeting to go over a draft budget for next year. That's in June. So you might want to think about potentially holding committee meetings to kind of go over what you want done for next year to recommend to the executive committee.
I think that's a good idea.
You can review what's in the plan and then just let the executive committee know before that June meeting, which is part of your meeting notice schedule for this year. And we can certainly set stuff up on Zoom.
So basically,
Casey, Casey, would that mean we wouldn't have a budget committee meeting as we have in the past?
No, we will still need to have one, just whether we do it on Zoom or in person. But what Laurel's saying is have the subcommittees meet and then report back to the executive committee as to maybe some projects or things that they're thinking of for next year, so that we can either ask for more money or not, or.
But we still have the whole problem. How do we organize that? I mean, we've got to do a whole Zoom thing, don't we, with even our small committees?
Right. The committee chairman would have to get with Laurel and set up a Zoom meeting.
between now and early June.
Correct.
I mean, the executive, yeah,
If I recall right, we had set it up so that it would go an hour before the regular session. So whatever that third Wednesday in June is. So roughly a month?
Interesting. So that exec meeting is gonna be before the next commission
Regular
meeting.
session, yes.
So, so before the next Parks and Rec, it'll be just before Parks and Rec, the exec committee meets and goes over the budget for the next year.
Question,
Well, at least the recommendation for the full board.
Laurel,
Yep,
Laurel, don't the recommendations come to the commission at the July meeting, not the June meeting?
I thought it was June. Do
I
you have
thought
the
it was
meeting
July.
notice in front of you?
I don't. We get our packets typically like, what typically happens is we get our packets, I think it's early June, and they want them
You're
back.
right.
They want them back before we meet.
You're right. So you'll get your packet out in June and then deliberate right before that July meeting. So at least you're getting enough notice to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I
Correct.
think, yeah, we'll have to, yeah. I'm just gonna ask a question. Let's say we're having the executive meeting. The chair, the vice chair, and the secretary are kind of hashing out the numbers for the budget. Can other members be in the Zoom and help deliberate?
I don't see a problem with that against the rules, Laurel.
Well, I think we just set it up as an executive committee meeting just to get it going, but if you'd rather hold like a special session and then any member can attend, there's no reason you couldn't do that. I don't know if it's against your bylaws to do that. I don't think it is. It could be, it's spelled out in the bylaws that the executive committee meets to go over the budget.
Which I believe that it is, but we may want to hold a special session as a whole group to talk about those things.
I like that idea, and I think everybody can be thinking about their individual committee assignments. I had another question. Do we have a chairperson for each committee at this point?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Dave, Melinda, and who is it for Miles?
Is it Kyle?
Yeah, it was for last year. We haven't met to re-up, but that, I guess it carries through until we have our first meeting.
Right.
Now, we've got with me on each one, and we have 4 people. It seems like the chair could have informal conversations with one member at a time, just to flesh out ideas. And then by the time we get to the exec meeting, just have some ideas fleshed out that we could kind of hash out a little bit. Trying to garner ideas to help the exec committee. And I think Ty's comment about, we've got a nice amount of money here this year. Let's make sure that we've got the ideas set forth early enough to make use of that money for our parks.
I would agree. Okay, so is that kind of how, oh, John, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at the calendar June 17th is our next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then someone mentioned that the execs would meet an hour prior to that. Am I correct?
But I think we talked about it probably being July.
Well, you mentioned July, Laurel, but I thought that we look at our money now and give it to the county commissioners in July.
I don't have the meeting schedule in front of me.
We can, go ahead.
May I suggest maybe have Casey come back to us with a suggestion on how we might move forward in the next couple of weeks. Talk with Laurel, talk with the clerk, and because I have down parks at 2 o'clock in June, so I don't know if that was to talk about the budget an hour early, or if we were meeting an hour early, or if it's an error. And then for July, I have no meeting. So maybe
I think it was June.
So I was thinking, Laurel, so maybe just give us some direction on what to do, maybe.
I like that. We can toss this in Casey's lap and he can talk to Clerk and Laurel and let us know what we need to do.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Am I still on?
Yes.
The other in this discussion is let's have a special meeting and then let's all get in. If you get a bunch of us together, we aren't going to get anything done. I think what Steve had just said, if someone takes the lead, contacts each one of the park people, do it that way, and should be able to review this stuff without getting 8 of us together. We'll never get anything done.
You just want to be careful, however, that it doesn't have the appearance that you're trying to circumvent the Open Meetings Act.
Correct.
Polling is allowable, but you certainly can't deliberate towards rendering a decision.
Correct.
No, that's very important. We just need the ideas fleshed out. We don't need to deliberate. Just just get enough conversation going that we don't lose some ideas during this shutdown time.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll get with Laurel and then get in touch with everybody on where we're gonna head from here. Okay, moving on to the number 9, the 1973 Leelanau County Parks Regulation Ordinance.
I can take that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, at our February 27th meeting, the very last thing on the commissioner's comments, it's in your handout, you don't need to go look at it. It said Popa commented on an incident where he witnessed someone dropping off trash at a park. And I got the license number. And it was just during public comment. It says Popa will follow up with the prosecuting attorney to get some public service out of this guy. And I gave that license number and everything to the sheriff department. And then I went and saw our prosecuting attorney, and we haven't had a meeting since then. Now, in your packet, does everybody have their packet in front of them? The last 2 items. Here we go. Does everybody have that packet where it says the Leelanau County Park and Regulation Ordinance? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're looking at it, John. Keep going.
Go ahead, John.
So when I went up to Hubble's office, there was an ordinance and it was written May 11th, 1971. Because we were wondering, what can we do to stop these people from doing this, which I want to get to later. Do we have to go to the prosecuting attorney and issue this guy? With this ordinance, you can issue a citation. The sheriff can just go issue a citation. The Board of Commissioners approved it. And you look at all these things that's in this ordinance, and I'm not sure we've seen this ordinance in this 30 years. And it talks about the general stuff. And then on the bottom, it says penalties under section 6. And it said anybody that violates this stuff, you're gonna get $100 fine. Whether it's dogs, tents, all this other stuff, we've got signs. All we gotta do is give a citation to this guy by a deputy, and that guy is getting a citation per this ordinance. Now, we may wanna look at this ordinance because there's a couple sticky things in it. If you look up at number 4, it says no tents, house trailers, campers shall be allowed within a county park, picnics or grounds, either temporary or otherwise. Well, if I'm gonna violate the ordinance, I'm gonna say, well, you've got a thing here that's being violated and you guys don't do anything about that. So that whole thing on violations is out the window unless we look at this ordinance. This is still on the books according to our prosecutor, and we don't follow it. Whether we still want an ordinance, I don't know. We have Parks and Recs rules and regulations. So we got to look at this. And Hubble was the one that dug this ordinance out. The other one is down there under 5F. No dogs or other animals shall be allowed within the parks, picnic grounds, places of recreation, unless they're on a leash or in a cage. Well, we already allow hunting in Veronica Valley. So a sharp person that's going to get a ticket for garbage or whatever, say, hey, you throw this whole thing out. If you don't obey this, then I'm not going to obey that. With that, we looked into the next thing I posted up there. This is just for discussion today.
Can I make a quick suggestion before you get into the second part?
Sure.
This really probably should go to council. It's over 50 years old. And just in looking at section 5, item B, it doesn't even delineate between household trash.
I agree.
And you know?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So if you'd like, I can send this on to council for review.
Well, the other thing is under the Michigan Legislature Act, which is the next one, there's some things that we've got to make sure that we have in place as a Parks and Recs, and there was 3 of them. One was under number 2, no rule shall take effect unless the following occurs. And one of them is you got to post a copy of the rules near a gate. And the other thing, it also mentioned under 3 that there's $100 fines associated with it. So we as a Parks and Rec thing, listen to what Laurel said. We should either keep this as old business, but what do we want to do next? And if Laurel sends this to a person, we should say, hey, what do we do with something that's this old? What do you advise Parks and Recs do? Do we need to come up with another ordinance? I don't know if county needs more ordinances, but I just happen to find this since February 27th. And I think we got a little bit of, not major work, but we got to decide because a lot of this stuff is obsolete. We couldn't have kids fishing day because we had a portable tent out there. There's a whole bunch of little stuff.
Why don't we have Laurel forward it on to corporate council and then bring it back on next month's agenda and go from there?
That's good. Now, either under commissioner comments, I think we should get rid of garbage cans at these things. We've got people dumping that garbage, and there is no reason to have these garbage cans. People can take their own garbage home. They're just filling up with tourist stuff.
Is Veronica the only one that we have them left at?
I'm not sure, Chairman. When I talked to Scott, he said there was a big mess one time down at Old Settlers. Was that because we took the garbage cans out or not? But if Veronica's the only one, we're wasting taxpayers' money putting garbage cans there.
We'll talk to Scott about it again when our next meeting.
I rest my case.
Okay. moving on with the agenda here. Any public comment out there?
The number again to call in is 231-256-8103. We only have one person watching, so I think you're okay with that.
Okay, any commissioner comments? Okay, no comments from me. Motion to adjourn,
So move.
second.
Or,
All those in favor? Oh, Dave, never mind. All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Laurel, thanks for setting this
Thanks,
all
Laurel.
up.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Everybody stay safe. Enjoy your day.